Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Haddon Lockyer from the Informed Youth of America, and tonight we're here with a very special guest, Mr. Michael Anthony from New York City. He's such a brave patriot. He's got a great story to tell you of something he's been doing in his community and the consequences of it. He's taking a stand, and he's under severe fire from the government, especially, and the businesses, and it's horrible to see. But thank you so much, Mr. Anthony, for coming on this evening.
I'm glad to be here with you, Haddon. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's such an honor. All right. So first of all, if you can, take the viewers back to the day, December 25th, correct? And explain to us exactly what happened on that day.
All right. I think it was December 26th or 27th. But a bunch of my friends and I from the New York Freedom Rally, which is our pro-freedom organization here in New York City. We were protesting at Borough Hall in Brooklyn, and at a certain point decided to go get something to eat. At first, we went to try to go to the Shake Shack, but they locked the door when they saw our crowd. So we kept on going to the. Of course, we're not wearing masks either. But
Awesome.
we ended up down the block at Burger King, and at Burger King, some of us were actually able to order like French fries or something, a little quick something, but pretty soon the manager saw the rest of us, of course, there without masks. He's behind a big divider, mind you, but he sees all of us without our masks, and I guess he didn't. I didn't hear what he said because he was again behind this divider and he had a mask on and all that. But and I was and kind of far back in the crowd. But ultimately, the manager decided to kick us out. He said that he basically called the cops on us. Actually, that's exactly what he did. He called the cops on us to have us removed from the Burger King in Brooklyn, New York, for apparently for not complying with the COVID mandates. But again, we weren't even really given a clear reason. All that ended up happening was a big bunch of cops came into the Burger King, like 15 at least, and they lined up in front of the cash registers and said that the manager didn't want us here and that if we did not leave, we would be arrested for trespassing. So, and some of us were kind of guided out of the building. Others were, I'll be honest, I don't think I've mentioned this publicly yet, but there was someone being arrested right next to me. And before I knew it, they said, no, don't get that guy, get that guy. I mean, not word for word, but they were saying, no, don't arrest this person, arrest this person here, me. I don't know exactly why they did that, but it's just, that's kind of to my point that we were kind of being plucked out, one by one, while other people were actually being guided out of the Burger King. It was weird, but that's what happened. And 5 of us got arrested that night. 5 men.
That is crazy. That is totally ridiculous. In America, you'd expect that in a socialist country, but we're just America. You weren't even necessarily, you were just trying to go eat. You weren't staging a protest there. You were just correct. You were just going in to eat. And of course, you weren't complying with the insane mandates, but you were just practicing civil disobedience, just trying to place an order. That is insane. Well, okay, tell us a little bit about that Burger King in Queens, correct? The video doesn't do justice to the event, obviously, the one that's been around the internet with, you said 15 police. That is crazy. And the amount, you could tell it was a very chaotic scene, but that is, how long is the Burger King there in Queens? How long have they had that policy of the vaccinated only can eat here? And when did they implement that? Was it under the governor or was it on their own accord? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Now, this was in Brooklyn, New York, this particular Burger King, but in downtown Brooklyn, which is just a big shopping area, lots of places to go eat or shop, and also government buildings very close by. So I will say, I just wanted to just be open and honest about the fact that we were ready to be turned away and, if need be, arrested in an act of civil disobedience if it came to that. Because, I mean, how could we not expect that in this current climate? But we actually did hope to eat. So, we were ready to be served, sit down, and enjoy our meals. But it, of course, went another way. Anywho, I just wanted to acknowledge that because, it's not like we didn't have that tension, so, but we also were ready to be just served and eat. Anywho, the Burger King that we went to was one that I have myself gone to over the years. I was born in Brooklyn, and I was able to eat there just a couple of, I don't know, I haven't gone there that often since I don't live in Brooklyn anymore, but I have eaten there before without any problem. So clearly it was you know, the policies of, I guess, Governor Hochul, acting Governor Kathy Hochul, that ended up causing this issue. Because I like to point out that this is not just governments setting their, I mean, not, sorry, governments, but this is not private businesses deciding that they don't want people to, dine in their establishments. This is a government policy, and there are government threats that are forcing it, really, maybe not completely forcing these restaurants to comply, but certainly encouraging them, because not everyone can afford to pay $1,000 fine plus escalating penalties. And who knows that's what the law, I mean, not the law, it's not even a law, which is even more absurd, but this mandate says escalating penalties. So that threat is what these, I guess it's a franchise, but in any case, whoever's running the business is under a lot of pressure to, force their customers to wear masks and show their COVID passport in order to dine. And I think it's incredibly wrong, obviously, for many reasons. And I could go on forever about this. I hope I've answered some questions here.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, I appreciate you taking a stand against it because, yeah, there's a lot of people in the country who think it's wrong, but very, very few are actually doing anything, taking any action to, get out there and say, we're not going to do this anymore. This is wrong. We're going to stand for our freedom. Most people are just saying, well, yeah, we think it's wrong, but we'll just, and that is what needs to be stopped. We need to get up together, and the more of us that there are, the louder our voices. So yes, thank you for doing that. Now, as for the arrest itself, what charges are you facing? I know you said it wasn't a law, so are there any charges you are facing personally, or any of the people who were arrested in this event? Anyone facing anything?
Yes, all 5 of us arrested that night are charged with trespassing. It's which is different from a charge that was leveled at our friends on in a previous incident at the Cheesecake Factory, which I believe it was actually criminal trespassing. We have different charges that are being thrown at us, and we've been going to, so far we've had 2 days of court for other people at other arrests. But it's weird. The second set of charges, which I'm not sure exactly what all of them were, but of course it was just over and over they're trying trespassing at the very least, because the manager says they don't want us there. So because again, this is not about a health mandate. This is about just following whatever the government says. So in this case, they're just writing it up as trespassing. But I will say that the first round of trespassing charges were entirely dismissed. So the Cheesecake Factory incident, which I believe was the day before the Applebee's incident, were just different places. We've attempted sit-ins. Again, willing to eat if they would let us. But in each of these places, we've been getting different charges. In my case, and in my 4 friends who were arrested that night, we were arrested for trespassing, but we don't know exactly what to expect from the courts, because the second round of charges, in which I am not involved, but the second round of charges were actually expanded, where they actually added charges that we found out about that night. So it's really, I feel we feel like it might be kind of political at this point, obviously.
Of course. Well, yes, and for those other events you mentioned, like the Cheesecake Factory, Applebee's, if you guys, if the viewers, if you've been watching the Informed Youth on Facebook, we've been sharing those clips because it has just been major warning signs like this is happening in the United States, people. It could be coming to your area. And so we've been seeing those, and those are all. So are those all part of your group? And if so, was this the first time you were ever, I guess, detained for staging a sit-in?
Well, this was the first time I've been detained in my entire life. I've never been arrested. I mean, I'm a law-abiding citizen who's, just always been really quiet and not really been into doing all this kind of troublemaking, if you want to call it that. I've always been an introvert, so and an artist, so I usually try to express myself in other ways. But I'm sorry. I think I've. What's the more important? I feel like I'm not really answering your question.
Oh no, just that was the main question. Were those all part of your group, the one that you
Right, right.
mentioned?
Yes, those are, and there was at least one other. There was an attempt at a sit-in at the Trump Tower that was not. Um, it felt like a splinter group kind of, but um, I do know people from that group as well, and they were of course denied entry because I think it was just for masks, because in Trump Tower they were not allowed to enter without masks. Um, so we, yes, have over I guess we haven't been doing as many sit-ins lately, but over the past couple of weeks, yes, we've uh, kind of just yeah, we've been organizing different events around the city, hoping to expose the absurdity of having people with guns uh, enforce these really ultimately illegal mandates, because we have medical privacy. We have the legal right to medical privacy, and that alone should just bring a halt to all of this, I believe.
I think so too. And you are not a troublemaker in any way, shape, or form. And really, you're still a law abiding citizen because, as you mentioned before, these mandates are not laws in any way, shape, or form. They're government overreach that you are standing up against. That's actually more of a law abiding citizen in the founding fathers' eyes than it is because you're following the Constitution and the actual based laws of the United States of America, not these government mandates. So thank you for that. Could you repeat the name of that group you're in, the protest group?
Yes, New York Freedom Rally.
New York Freedom Rally. Is there a way we can support them? You guys have a website or anything?
Yes, I'm gonna I should have it ready, but I'm gonna make sure I look up the right website. Yes, newyorkfreedomrally.org. So all spelled out.
NewYorkFreedomRally.org. I'll link that in the comments once we're done with this video. So NewYorkFreedomRally.org.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So, you mentioned that you had some friends with you there at Burger King the night you were arrested, and I'm sure they stayed with you. Some were probably arrested with you, and some stayed with you afterwards as the court issues. And did you stay in prison overnight?
No, we were not in prison, just jail. At the precinct, they had a small, couple of cells in the back. So we, yeah, just sat there for. I'm not just sat there. We were back and forth doing paperwork, getting our pictures taken, mug shots, all that stuff, and fingerprinted and all these things. So it was about 5 hours total between the ride. Oh, it was interesting. They rode us to a pretty far away precinct. They could have just taken us to the nearest precinct and processed us, but they took us. I feel like they were trying to keep us away from our friends who would have been outside waiting and making noise to support us, because that's what we've been doing when our friends are in jail. If any of us are in jail, a bunch of us are outside yelling, saying, let them out. and so we don't stop protesting, and we don't give up on each other. We're always it's amazing. I mean, we went to Albany yesterday, and I had I had to get a ride to get up there, and um, so many people were willing to give me a ride, back and forth, and of course, I do my best to support my friends in whatever ways I can. So it's an amazing community, a real tribe. I feel of freedom loving Americans of all types. We're all races, all religions, all different economic backgrounds, different kinds of jobs. Some of us are educators or artists or just working class
Americans.
folks with all kinds of different. It's a really I'm very happy with our group.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're a bunch of Americans.
Yeah. Hey, what do you know?
So, as you know, New York City has accepted and put into place, and the governor and former Mayor de Blasio, all kinds of some of the strictest COVID rules in the country. So, what is life like for you guys who live there in New York or visit often? What's it like just trying to go to a business? Does this happen everywhere? Do you have to show vaccine cards? Obviously, you guys aren't, but like for the general citizen, do they really ask everywhere? For the perspective, for those of us who aren't in New York, is it truly as bad as it sounds?
All right, that's a good question. I live personally in the suburbs, uh, close to Long Island, which is that would place me just right at the edge of the city limits. And my experience is I often end up going to the local mall where that's in Long Island. So technically, I'm out of New York City and just in New York State. So sometimes things are a little more easygoing in that area, which is weird because just like a mile away, things are more uptight. It's not like every single store will, or even restaurant will, force you to do any of this stuff. But most I say restaurants, almost universally, yes, they do. And of course, gyms and places like that tend to be very strict. But I I'm trying to think of different stories I've heard from different people about their experiences. I don't wear a mask on the subway in when I go on the train, and I never hear anything from anybody. Then again, I'm relatively tall, and I might look kind of. I mean, compared to a lot of people on the subway, so I'm just thinking, I don't know, maybe I look too big to pick on or something. But um,
Well, that's always a nice advantage to have. So when you say strict, what exactly do you mean by that? Just like in more detail.
well, if you go into, especially, or I would say, because I've been going to restaurants that do this, uh, you'll go into a restaurant and they'll ask to see your COVID passport and to enter. And if you don't have it, they will tell you that you need to have it and will turn you away, or at least try to turn you away. It depends on how they do it. Depends on the person, of course. It's from person to person, um, but it's really at the door. They just turn you away. It's pretty simple. I don't really know how to explain it except that I guess the easier way of really explaining it is how prevalent it is, um, in that, like, we have gone to eat in certain places, like certain restaurants that are openly pro freedom, and that's great. There are a few. I mean, I don't know how many there are, but there are a bunch of places where you can go and expect to be treated like a human being.
That's
Um,
awesome. That was actually my next question.
yeah.
On the flip side of that, what businesses have openly supported you or supported freedom and said, we're not going to do this? Any that you know off the top of your head, so if anybody's watching, they can give their support to that business.
Oh, sure. Well, I have been posting about it in my Instagram. I think we went to Tanpopo Ramen. It was a ramen place just yesterday in Albany, New York. There's a place called Gino's Pizzeria just off Casena Boulevard in Queens, New York, and they treated us really well, and the food was very good. There are, let's see, uh, offhand, I can't remember a whole list, but there is an account on, I believe, it's on Instagram called Pro Freedom Eats, and they actually list some places that openly do allow, they don't force you to do any of the stuff, and it's really
Awesome.
great.
That's great. Yeah.
Mm.
So, what has generally the public response been to you guys online? Has it been mostly positive, mostly negative on that sense?
I get mostly supportive comments from around the world, and it's a very good feeling. Of course, there are a couple of people who just say, "Oh, just please, just get vaccinated. You're being childish and all that kind of thing." And I don't know about most people, but when I was a kid, I was able to see through a lot of things because I wasn't as brainwashed as an adult tends to get over. I mean, you get used to things over the years. People say, "Well, you already have to give up this right, so why are you going to complain about giving up these rights?" The problem is that we've been doing that to the point where it just adds up. And the first, when we did it before, it was a bad thing. So when giving up our rights before in any little way has always been a bad thing, I think.
I completely agree. There's a long way back to go if we really want to get back to freedom. And yeah, that's true. So two more quick questions for you. First of all, you've been on the front lines of this battle, you and the group and everybody, your groups that you've been in and protesting with. Do you feel that this movement is growing as coverage grows, or do you feel that it's dwindling? Your thoughts on that?
Kind of hard to tell sometimes. Sometimes it feels like it's shrinking, but then at those times, sometimes the impact seems to be increasing. So um, it doesn't always take a small percentage of the population pushing back is all we really need. I do wish that we had more, but and so many people seem to be really digging in their heels and almost loving this, all the restrictions. But I do feel we are a silent majority that or at least questioning things and that cherish our medical privacy and our bodily autonomy. So I have hope that more people will see that it's not the end of the world if you do push back and that you can and that you should be brave. We are the land of the free and the home of the brave, but we're not free unless we're brave first. We have to be brave to defend our freedom.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So, what do you think is going to change this? The current path that New York is on, that the country is on, how do we get our freedom back? We talked about getting it back. How do we get that back from where we're at now? What do you think needs to be done? Uh,
Well, I tend to get pretty philosophical about it, if you can't tell, but I think it's the thing that really has to happen is that people have to remember that they were born free. We have to remember that it's not a thing that we're asking for. It's not even a thing that we're demanding. It's a thing that we already have as long as we acknowledge it and that our freedom begins inside and within in our minds and hearts and souls. And I think that just what we need to do is continue to resist as much as we can, each in our own way. Not all of us are going to be able to go as far as getting arrested or even, you know, going into a restaurant without a mask. It might be too difficult for them in some way. I don't know. Um, I appreciate and encourage anyone to be able to uh, resist peacefully in their own way, and encouraging each other to do that is ultimately what just has to happen. And sometimes we can encourage each other just by doing it, by setting an example. And hopefully that reaches enough people because this is how we win, one person at a time, reaching one person at a time. That's it.
I completely agree, and that brings me to the last thing I was really going to say. And that's today. We were talking actually about the civil rights movement. We're going through history. I'm in 10th grade and we're talking about U.S. history. And today I'm in a pretty small school, but my teacher was talking. We learned about Rosa Parks specifically, and I know the story well, but the parallels, I was getting ready for this interview, the parallels between you guys and what you're doing and them and what they were doing and the strategies, they're so excellent. The peaceful, it always is louder. It's always more proficient, I think, in getting the message across. Being peaceful and civil disobedience, as you mentioned earlier, that's an excellent strategy. And I got to mention this interview today in my class, and my teacher was so glad to hear that you guys were doing what you were doing, and specifically you, because I told all my classmates your story. Some of them said they might even get on and try and watch some clips of this interview tonight. So I appreciate so much. Your message is spreading much larger than any of us know. I honestly believe that we'll never know exactly how far we're reaching unless, and I think especially a lot of the backlash that we get, that you guys get, is a good indication of how much you're accomplishing. So when you get those negative comments, just look at them and be like, well, this shows that it's working. So I thank you so much for being on. And yeah, just keep pushing through all that. Push through. I've not been arrested, thankfully, yet, but I did get reported to the FBI once. So I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So thank you so much.
Beat us there.
I thank you so much for being on this evening, Mr. Anthony.
Thank you, Haddon. It's been really great talking with you, and just keep it up.
You too. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all for watching. I'm Haddon Lockyer with the Informed Youth of America, and we'll see you next time.